When we refer to economic inequality, we're referring to income and/or wealth inequality. Income is a flow, like a river, in that wages, interest, rents, and profits accrue over time. Wealth accumulates, which makes it a stock, like a lake that the river flows into, which is why income inequality leads to wealth inequality. In this video, I will mostly be discussing income inequality, which has been increasing in countries like the USA for the past 50 years. In the 30 years after the Second World War, most of the rewards to the gains in productivity went to labor, which is why real wages increased in line with productivity during those decades. Around the mid-1970s, however, the two started to diverge, and now real wages were stagnating, while productivity continued to rise. These gains in productivity were to be enjoyed by those who owned assets, which tend to be higher income households. This increase in income inequality can be measured and expressed with Lorenz curves and Gini coefficients. Here, on the x-axis, we have the cumulative percentage of population, and on the y-axis, we have the cumulative percentage of income. In a perfectly equal society, where each household earns the same income, the bottom 20% of income earners would take in 20% of the share of the total income. The bottom 40%, 40%, and so on. That's why this line is a line of perfect equality. However, there are no perfectly equal societies. A more realistic representation would be this Lorenz curve. Here, the bottom 20% of income earners take in around 12%, and the bottom 40 take in a little over 20% of that total income earned in the society. If this curve represents the income distribution in the US in 1960, then perhaps this curve could represent it in the year 2000, after income inequality had deepened. Now, the bottom 20% of the population take in 5%, and the bottom 40 takes in a little under 20%. The further the Lorenz curve is from the line of perfect equality, the more unequal the society being represented is. The Gini coefficient is a number between 0 and 1 that reflects income inequality. It is derived from the Lorenz curve with this formula. The more unequal the society is, the further the Lorenz curve is from the line of perfect equality. Then, the bigger this A area will be. Since the Gini coefficient is obtained by dividing A by the whole triangle, which includes A, the more unequal the society, the closer the Gini coefficient gets to 1. Why has inequality been increasing for the past 50 years? In the 1980s, the US and UK governments sought to increase productive capacity with supply-side policies, which involves unleashing market forces and minimizing state involvement in the economy. They made income taxes less progressive, which is to say, more regressive. In 1970, the highest income households in the US were taxed 70%. Today, it's only 37%. This will cause disposable incomes to rise for the rich and to stay the same for everyone else. Welfare benefits were cut as well. These transfer payments go from high-income households through taxation to lower-income households as benefits payments. Both of these changes will directly cause more income inequality. By making income tax less progressive, people will be incentivized to work harder, as they will get to keep more of their income that they earn. If taxing cigarettes reduces smoking, then surely taxing high earnings will reduce hard work. One could argue that cutting benefits also incentivizes hard work, as people must enter the workforce or work more or harder if they are no longer to rely on assistance from the state. Getting more people to work, or getting them to work harder, or more, increases the quantity and quality of factors of production, which increases potential output and long-term economic growth. After the 2008 financial crisis, another policy shift increased income inequality. A favoring of expansionary monetary policy, such as low interest rates and quantitative easing, over expansionary fiscal policy as a way of keeping growth apace. Many have argued that this will worsen income inequality, as expansionary fiscal policy can decrease unemployment by directly increasing demand for goods and services through increasing government spending, while expansionary monetary policy does this by first increasing asset prices, which then induces firms to invest more and households to spend more in a more roundabout way. Asset prices increasing benefits high-income households, as those are the ones who own assets in the first place. Changes in the global economy have also contributed to widening income inequality. The biggest change over the past 50 years has been the movement of manufacturing from the rich global north to the poorer global south. While this has caused incomes to rise for hundreds of millions across the world, it has suppressed wages in the countries that were deindustrializing, like the United States, as factory workers there were suddenly competing with 500 million new people. Good for profits and stock prices, bad for wages and workers. Rising inequality can reduce economic growth, as inequality gives rise to more unproductive guard labor. As more and more is owned by fewer and fewer, those wealthy few will employ people and devote resources towards protecting what they have from the unwashed masses. This could mean guards for their communities or more supervisory workers to make sure people don't steal anything from the workplace. These kinds of jobs don't add to output. They're only there to protect what someone already has. As incomes increase, a smaller proportion of income is devoted to consumption. This means that as incomes become more unequal, less will be spent on consumption overall. This also means lower growth and higher unemployment, as aggregate demand will be suppressed. There are also non-economic effects. Rising inequality is also associated with increases in crime, and it also creates a political elite that is unresponsive to the needs of the majority, as they've already been captured by the powerful, wealthy minority. Reversing tax and welfare policies could reverse the trend of deepening inequality. By making income tax more progressive and by increasing transfer payments, disposable income will decrease for high-income households and increase for low-income households, which should raise total demand, as lower-income households spend a larger proportion of their income. However, these policies could have a negative impact on incentives. These supply-side policies worked by incentivizing people to work harder and by getting people to enter the workforce, so reversing these policies could reverse these gains, causing a contraction in productive capacity. An inheritance tax is a tax on wealth, as it is levied when someone dies and bequeaths their total wealth to an heir. This is useful as inequality is a generational issue, and this kind of tax can help level the playing field by using the funds to help children from less advantaged backgrounds. Some object to inheritance taxes, though, as it involves taxing money that has already been taxed. If you earn money throughout your life, that money is taxed, but the money you squirrel away is yours. Once you die, that saved money gets taxed again when it goes to the person you leave it to. One could also argue that an inheritance tax incentivizes people to frivolously spend their money away before they die instead of saving it. Increasing government spending can increase incomes by stimulating AD and through the multiplier effect. It can also reduce inequality if the spending improves people's health and education, as healthier and smarter people earn more as they are more productive. Some would argue that the private sector is more efficient at providing services than the government, so it would be more effective to cut taxes for low-income households and just let them purchase services in the free market. Increasing capital gains tax reduces income inequality as it only impacts people selling assets that have increased in value, which mostly only applies to high-income households as they are the ones who own assets. This could be a good option as capital gains tax is already low. It's 15% in the US, so there's space for it to increase. That being said, capital gains tax is a tax on investments that have been successful. Taxing investments leads to less investment. Less investment means less growth. Universal basic income is a policy where every adult citizen, regardless of income, gets a fixed amount of money. This redistributes income without any administrative costs, as all it involves is sending a check in the mail, or direct deposit into a bank account every month. Obviously, giving everyone money every month is expensive. It would entail a huge opportunity cost. Many believe UBI is a way to replace the welfare state, making it a poor solution for income inequality, as universal basic income is universal, meaning even rich households would receive it.